Hey everybody, the Freelancer back again, doing another video for Sonic the Hedgehog week. I hope you guys have been enjoying it up until this point. I know I've certainly been enjoying it, but, you know, I'm a big fan, so what can I say? I can say this. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. This is the last of the main series games that was released on the Sega Genesis. And this one, you know, kind of had a troubled development cycle, but they did ultimately get it out. However, this game actually is not complete. You don't get the full experience until you connect it to this, Sonic and Knuckles. Which, looking at it, is a strange little cartridge to begin with. I mean, you know, the bottom of it looks like your normal Genesis cart, but then you've got this flappy little door thing, and you've got this whole nother set of pin connectors on top. The whole point was, you took Sonic 3, slapped it in there, and you stuck this whole unit into your Sega Genesis. And this is how you played Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Needless to say, it looks even funnier sticking out of your Genesis. However, I'm fortunate to have it. Apparently a lot of people didn't get Sonic and Knuckles sorry, strictly because it was a bit of an expensive cart. And then of course you still have to have Sonic 3 to really get the full effect. Though there is an entirely separate game on here. But the whole story and the whole Death Egg saga that began in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 comes to completion when you've got the whole thing together. But thankfully my parents found both these games at a pawn shop, which unfortunately is why the actual sticker for Sonic 3 is not in the best shape. But the fact that I have them and they still work, and I've still got them after all these years, I couldn't be any happier with it. But enough about the strange little cartridge and its design. Here's the video for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Good lord, what a massive game. I mean, this is... honestly, I think this game probably put Sonic CD to shame. I may have spoken too soon when proclaiming that it was the biggest game. But you have to figure, I mean, this is essentially two cartridges locked together. Now, this is the opening sequence where we meet Knuckles, who is, of the hero characters, he is definitely my favorite one. But what they do great in this game, something I really love. First of all, you've got this, you know, kind of pseudo 3D, which I really like the look of that. But you have different save slots that you can select from. And when you choose to make a new game, you can then pick which character you want to play. So you can start off, as you would expect, with Sonic and Tails, or you can play just as Sonic on his own, or Tails on his own, or Knuckles on his own. So you could play the game essentially 4 different times and have a slightly different experience with each time. Especially by the time you finish the portion that would be considered just Sonic 3, because then you go on to the additional portion of the story that was continued in just the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge, which kind of finishes the whole storyline. And what happened, from what I understand, is that they were trying to make this very, you know, large game, and they ran out of time in the development. So what they decided to do was just split the game up. And they put out Sonic 3 on Groundhog's Day here in the US, and then later on in the year released the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge. Here's that opening again. And I love how Knuckles started out as like an antagonistic character because he got duped by Robotnik. The only thing I dislike about that is, of course, since then, many many versions of Knuckles that they put out have shown him to be an imbecile who still gets duped by Robotnik time and time again. I don't mind so much they did it the first time, but it's the fact that he kept doing it again later on. You know, I never like to think of Knuckles as being stupid. You know, naive perhaps, but stupid no. So right behind this pillar, you'll actually see the very first special stage that you can go into. This is a big difference from the original game where you only got to the special stages after you got to the end and had collected 50 rings. Here, you find them right in the middle of the level. And you can see there are these pseudo 3D worlds where you're trying to collect the blue spheres. And to be honest with you, I have always been really bad at this. I used to have to try this time and time again before I could finally get, you know, through it. You see what I mean? I'm just really, really bad at them. It's not to say that they're not fun, it's just, it's me. So as I stated before, this game, on top of adding the, you know, ability to choose 3 different characters or to have the 2 characters here together, they made each character unique from the others. For example, with Sonic here, he still has this classic spin dash and everything, but if you watch when he jumps, if you press the jump button again, he lets out this little shield. This kind of wave that, you know, extends his hit area, I guess you'd say. So if you jump at an enemy and then do it again, it'll take them out, even if you're not quite close enough to them. The other thing that they added for Sonic were various shields that had different properties and abilities. And I'll see if I can find them as I go along here. But they were a fire shield, a water shield, and an electricity shield. The fire shield allowed you to launch yourself as a fireball towards an enemy. The water shield allowed you to breathe... Okay, sorry, I gotta stop for a minute. This is such a great way to open a game. Holy crap. I love that. You've gone from this lush, beautiful paradise to this, you know, foreboding, fiery inferno as hell. Okay, what that was, just in case you kind of missed it, the same way that this in Sonic 2, if you collected enough rings and got to the goalpost, you jump into and go to the special stages. In here, you can still do that, but instead what it takes you to are these little areas where you can get bonuses and apparently make a round trip. Now here's the blue spheres again. See, there's just a lot of stuff in this game going on, and that's kind of where it almost makes the experience a little bit overwhelming at first. I remember as a kid, when I first popped this in, and there was just so much to do, so much to take care of, and so much to keep track of, compared to the previous 2 Sonic games, it was a little bit imposing, I'll admit. But once I got used to it, you know, I realized the merits of this incredible, incredible game. Now, the only other problem, though, and again, this isn't the game's fault, this is mine. As I got older, I wasn't into Sonic as much at the time. You know, I mean, I was a young kid. What you gonna do? And by the time this game had rolled around, I was more interested. You know, I guess I was close to my middle school years by the time this came out. So, you know, I wanted stuff that was a little more adult, and, you know, this little hedgehog running around just seemed kind of ridiculous to me. Like I said, I've never been good at those, ever. But here's the fire shield, which is actually my favorite of the 3, because you can do this. And it's really, really useful. But unfortunately, as you just noticed, the minute you hit the water, you lose it. That's the only obnoxious part about it. But thankfully you do get the water shield. And that one is my second favorite simply because it allows you to stay underwater but breathe. You don't have to worry about collecting the air bubbles like you did in the past. I really thought that was a great idea. And also it allows you to break stones and get to areas that you couldn't get to sometimes just playing as Sonic on his own. Now, unlike before, you fight mid-level bosses along the way. And as you knock this signpost around, sometimes a little item box will pop up. And you didn't get it. You have to put it in certain areas, and it's all random from what I understand. Now, beyond Sonic, you then have Tails, who pretty much does everything you'd expect, but they also added that he can fly independently. Whereas before it was just kind of the computer controlled it, now you're able to do it for him. So that was a really nice addition. And then Knuckles, as many people know, can both glide and latch himself onto walls and climb up them. See if I can do a little better here. I doubt it. And believe me, it's no fault of the controls. The controls in this game are spot on. They're exactly what you would expect from a Sonic game. They're tight and responsive. It's just me. I'm just bad at it, especially as it starts to speed up. See what I mean? I get disoriented and then I've, hit the button too many times. And yet, despite how bad I am, I do have to admit it actually is fun to play them. Now, they do keep the same... lost it again. Like I said, that's the one thing I hate. Though, conversely, it actually does kind of make sense. Now, this is the water shield. As you can see, it allows you to actually bounce. And you can go underwater here, and you notice no air bubbles because it breathes for you. I love watching Tails swim. I think that's the funniest looking thing. Just lost it again. Anyhow, the game retains that two-act style that was established in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But the game itself is just so large. Each of the zones and acts are so big that... Ooh, that's a lot of rings. And I just lost them all. Oh, that hurt. So between this, the blue sphere stages, the special kind of gumball stages as they call them, where you can earn shields and different things, there are just a lot of little extras plugged into this game. And all of it amounts to being just one big, huge game that, like I said, can be really overwhelming, especially when I was a kid. And as I've gone back, I still find that there's just a lot to do. And actually, not long ago, I was reading that apparently there are about 9 different endings to this game. I mean, for a platformer, especially, early 90s platformer, that's an awful lot. And there is an awful lot of story in here. And one of the things that I've noticed about this game, like that scene where everything's set on fire here like it did, and other points throughout the game, of all the Sonics, this is probably one of the most cinematic, until you get, of course, around to the Sonic Adventure series. But those were completely different games in and of themselves. As far as traditional platformers, this has just a lot of little scenes and little, extra stuff going on that's really kind of surprising to me. And goes to show you what direction they were really intending to take the franchise as a whole. And that continuous narrative that they were striving for. Here's another one of the little bonuses. You've got to wrap around these electric balls, and try not to get hit by that helix thing, which I unfortunately just did. There's my fire shield again. Like I said, my favorite of the shields, just because it's probably the most useful. Certainly the most damaging, and is a big help in this upcoming boss fight. If you can keep it. See, first you go through this little scene here, where you're getting fire bombs dropped on you. And of course, poor Tails, the ever constant butt monkey. And I'm sure you've seen it by now, but just looking at the background here like this, and Robotnik over there, you know, of the 3 primary Genesis games, it is certainly the best looking. And in some ways, I think this particular one even rivals Sonic CD. Now again, the advantages of having, you know, this shield is that even though he's launching these fireballs, it's not going to hurt me because I've got the fire shield on. However, you do still have to concern yourself with things like falling down and so forth. And now you see that the pods are up there instead of down on the ground like they used to be. And Tails just fell off again. Now we get another cinematic, and this is what I'm talking about. This sort of thing. Now this zone, another one of those water zones, and as I mentioned before, I positively hate these zones. Never liked them, never will. But they are part of the series, and you either gotta accept them or you just don't. But I will admit, despite not being a fan of them by any stretch of the imagination, of the different water zones, I would actually say that this one is probably one of the best designed and best looking. And there's just so much going on. It's not like the traditional ones where, you know, it was basically just get through it, survive it, that's it, no more, cut, print, you're done. This one, you know, there's all sorts of extras. And thankfully I found that shield. Oh boy. But you can see now, Tails is about to run out of air. And I just lost the shield. Poor guy, you just can't catch a break. Look at him swim! Look at him swim! I love that. It just looks so funny. Like I said, there's just so many little cinematics and things extra going on in this game, and there's just so much to do. You know, I really need to sit sometime and really do a nice playthrough and show you guys just what. And you can bounce back up and get back up here and do it again. And I got a fire shield, but it's useless in this zone. Because the minute I hit the water, I'm going to lose it. I love how he was actually moving so fast he just streaked over the water. Only Sonic, man. Only Sonic. And say goodbye. There we go. That I can use. Until I lose it. Easy come easy go, as they say. And here we go. I had to do it just once while I'm in the middle of Sonic Week. Now, just like the other main Sonic games that I've talked about, the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic 3 is, again, on the Sonic Mega Collection. It's available for download on Virtual Console, PC, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live Arcade. It's, or, well, maybe not the, I don't know. I don't know enough about the other systems. Yeah, it's everywhere. You can find it in so many different forms, and you can either play the games separately or as if they were locked on together. Furthermore, an interesting note, just in case you didn't know, you can actually take Sonic and Knuckles here and lock it in with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and then play as Knuckles in Sonic 2. Which, if you try too hard, doesn't quite fit into the whole overall arching story that is the Death Egg Saga. But I still like it anyway. It's still fun to have Knuckles playing through levels that you're incredibly familiar with. Now you've got this new character that you're trying to learn about, and how he works in the environments, and what minor things were changed to make him work in those environments. However, if you hook it to Sonic the Hedgehog 1, it doesn't work, and instead you get the Blue Sphere minigame. Well, it's not a minigame. You get like I think there are 100 boards or something like that in total. Something along those lines. Either way, this game is completely and utterly worth playing. Again, as I stated in the video, among the Sonic games, not necessarily my favorite of the older Genesis-based games. But that's like saying that chocolate ice cream isn't my favorite when compared to strawberry. Doesn't mean I don't like it, it's just I prefer one over the other. Doesn't mean they're both not equally worth eating or playing. Anyhow, this has been the Freelancer, and Sonic the Hedgehog week continues. I'll catch you guys later. See ya.